Okay, can you hear me now? Let's see. This should work now. I should be. Excellent. Max, Anna, yes, Krishna, we are here. Yeah. Gonzalo, let's go. Let's go. Giuseppe, yes, I love this. Thank you so much for your patience. I really, really appreciate this. We have lots to cover today. So I'm so glad that you have stuck by me, even in these difficult times, and I will make it worth your time. I promise. So let me share my screen. We're going to jump straight into this. It is very, very exciting time right now. I'm sure a lot of you are spending a lot of time wasted researching no-code tools, playing around in AI tools, and you end up doing nothing. And that's what we're trying to solve here. So yeah, excited. Why don't you all put in the chat sort of why you came here? Are you trying to build an MVP or like a first app? Are you trying to launch a business but don't know how to get started? Just share here. Also share where you're connecting from. Seems like we have people from all over the world right now. So let's jump straight in. Excellent. So I'll be keeping my camera on. At the end of this presentation, we are going to have a Q&A. So that should be pretty fun. Again, lots to cover in today's presentation. Trying to build an MVP. Very cool. Yeah. So I'm guessing you might be non-technical. First app. Awesome. LA, Hadi. Nice. I'm also in Los Angeles. From California, Raghu, also here in Los Angeles. Excellent. Building MVP from the UK, George. So awesome to see you here. Oh man, I'm loving this. Morocco, man, all over the world. Well, I speak English, French, Spanish, Portuguese. So any of those languages, you'll be able to communicate in if you want, and you can ask questions. So I'll be keeping most of the questions for the end of this. From Brazil, Carlos, bem-vindo. Vai ser muito legal essa apresentação, então bem-vindo. Cool. So let's go straight into it. So much to cover. Hope you guys are down for a high pace of information. I'll be covering some of the basics at first, and then we're going to jump into some of the meat of this presentation. So the name of this presentation is Launch Your Startup Idea Using No-Code and AI. And yes, it's a very exciting time. There has never been such a good time, if you ask me, to launch a startup. You can build AI startups with no-code tools these days. And I have a buddy who launched his company that's called SynthFlow, just raised $1.8 million, fully built with no code. So yeah, exciting times. But let's see what we're going to cover here. First of all, there's this really huge shift that's been happening for entrepreneurship, and lots of people didn't get the memo. So I first want to cover kind of that and some of the common mistakes that I've seen hundreds, thousands actually of people make as entrepreneurs building apps and building businesses. So I want to cover those to make sure you're not making those same mistakes. Then we're going to be talking about how no-code and AI tools are changing the game for today's entrepreneurs. And then we're going to be jumping into the step-by-step process that I promised you as well, that we teach all of the founders who are in our company to launch their startups with zero coding skills. So usually a combination between no-code tools and AI tools as well. And then human beings as well. Talking about human beings, I'm not a robot. My name's Christian, and I've built 3 startups over my career. We Are No Code is my 4th, although I would consider it more of an education business, not so much a high growth startup. I've raised money for 2 of those, and I've sold companies, failed companies, but more importantly for you, I have directed an accelerator program here in Los Angeles where I trained more than 112 founders who went on to raise more than $56 million in funding. Probably should update this and help them get into these prestigious programs that everyone knows, like Y Combinator, Techstars, and 500 Startups. So through that process, which, by the way, I would train people for 6 weeks, put them on stage at Google, and they would pitch in front of about 100 to 150 investors. This is us on stage at Google. But through that entire process, I really learned one big thing, which is actually the reason I built We Are No Code. I was going through just thousands of applications, probably about 1,200 applications total, and realized, oh my God, like so many people are making huge mistakes. They have terrible products, they have no customers, and they've literally just spent anywhere between 6 months and 18 months, probably spent anywhere between $5,000 and $50,000, and they're really nowhere when it comes to like having revenue, having a product that people are actually using and people are paying for. And oftentimes that's because they are trying to figure it out, right? So usually what I see people do is just endlessly binge watch YouTube. I'm not saying there's not useful information there. Not always the best thing. Reading 1,000 books about entrepreneurship and listening to lots of podcasts, but not actually doing. And so having seen that, most of these founders in the selection process were just doing it all the wrong way, that's what got me a bit frustrated about what I was doing, which was kind of selecting the cream of the crop. And that's when I decided to launch We Are NoCode, an online school for non-technical entrepreneurs. So basically, when I say non-technical, it's really just people who don't know how to code, right? And we are literally in the best time ever for those people. So our mission is to democratize entrepreneurship, specifically for people who don't know how to code. And at this point, we've trained more than 550 founders, 23 countries. And I just wanted to showcase a couple founders because more than anything, more than showing you success stories of people we've helped, it's about showing you different profiles. So the first one is high growth startup, right? So someone who wants to go out there, build a company, raise money, and become $1 billion company, right? Or a couple, 30 to $100 million company and have an exit. So this is Heidi. She came to us with absolutely no experience. She had no technical skills, and she was kind of trying to figure it out on her own. She built an MVP, which is a first app in our program, was able to generate $25K in monthly revenue. And then I introduced her to the managing director of Techstars called Matt, and she got accepted, raised $680,000, and now she has about $1 million in revenue annually and has about $10 million in the pipeline, the sales pipeline. Her platform's Aware Health, so basically helps people with their neck, muscle, and joint pain. And it helps employers, specifically self-employed employers, just save about 50% by not sending people to surgeries directly, which is what currently happens. So this is the picture of both of them when they got into Techstars. And that's like one option. You go out there, you build a company, you raise a bunch of money, and then you grow like hell. The second one is actually Mike Rodriguez. He came to us and he was about to go to university, back to university for the second time to learn how to build an app. We had a little chat and I was like, hey man, if you're just looking to build an app, you don't want to be like a programmer. Frankly, no-code tools are going to do it for you. But he also had the ambitions of building a cash business, an agency. And he was actually able to accomplish both these goals, leveraging our program. So he, was able to not only launch his app called Liquidella, but also go from 8,000 to 40,000 just by implementing he's actually at 50,000 right now, by implementing no-code tools, some automation, and leveraging a little bit of AI. This is the app he got in the App Store, and he literally sent me an email saying like, I'm crying right now because he had just spent so much of his life trying to figure things out. It hadn't worked out. But just to show that, like, hey, if you're someone who like wants to build like a cash generating business and wants to launch an app in parallel, like that's totally feasible. And the third is sort of small, medium business owners. So this was Gavin. He was kind of sick of building a t-shirt printing business. It was just very tedious and manual, and joined the program. He was able to build out Seps.io, and basically he turned his manual business into a software business. Now this is what he does. You can hire him, pay him monthly to be your art department. And he specifically focuses on t-shirt printing, which is the area where he already has expertise. And so this is great for people who have expertise in specific areas. Anyway, enough about us, Christian. You're boasting now. Let's talk about this big shift because I really want to make sure that if you are making any of these mistakes, they have the potential to crush you. And I say that because it has done that to me in the past for startups I've had. So I want to avoid you some of this pain. And it all starts with kind of a shift that's happened in the startup ecosystem. 15 years ago, pretty much, you could raise money if you just had a good idea, right? Oh, I have a good idea. I'm going to go out there, convince investors to invest in my startup. And that has dramatically changed. let's look at the graph. So this is a graph that's shown, it was created by Wing Capital, a venture capital firm, so investors in Silicon Valley. They saw that in 2010, only 9% of the deals were going to startups that had revenue. But by 2019, 67% of all deals were going to companies that had revenue. And if you look at that curve, that red line, if you look at today, we're talking about 90% of all deals going towards revenue generating startups. And what that means is that founders need to get further. They need to go through the search phase, which is like basically researching, testing and validating, starting the legal entity, finding the name, the logo, but also building, right? Like creating a brand, designs, website, first app. And ultimately, they're searching for product market fit. And they even have to go out there and get first customers before they can start getting help. And guess who all of this sort of time and financial resources falls onto? You guessed it, it's you, or this business guy pointing at you. But the point is that every business is a software business. And it doesn't matter if you're selling apples or you are selling software. You have to build something online. And if you're not looking to, follow these online gurus that promise this life of, doing nothing, set up this system and make millions of dollars, hang out at the beach in Mexico, then and understand you have to put in hard work. This is Mark Andreessen, one of the biggest investors. He also started Netscape, invested in all the biggest companies, Uber, Airbnb, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, the big problem is that we're living in a world where every business requires some software, a website, some kind of an app, some automations, but 99.7% of people don't know how to code. And what does that mean? Well, basically means that entrepreneurs depend on programmers, and that is terrible for us who are entrepreneurs who do not know how to code. And I include myself in that because until today, I do not know how to code. But let's talk about these routes that you have, the options that you have. And this is where people make very costly mistakes. So if you fall in any one of these categories, be very careful. And I'm going to show you a better way at the end of this. First option that I've seen so many people go through is hiring programmers. So basically, you go out there, you find competent programmers, hire them to build the idea that you have. Now, oftentimes this costs anywhere between $30,000 and $100,000. So frankly, some people just don't even have this money. But it also ends up being this constant translation between what you think you want and what the developer is building. There's always product creep, meaning that like you pay for a first bill that you agree on, and then it's like, oh no, but we have to also build this, that, the other. We didn't consider that. Okay, we need that's going to cost more money. And you end up really launching late. Why? Because you try to build all the functionalities that you have in your mind, and it's a huge assumption, frankly, in most cases. And yeah, for the most part, every single time you launch a product, it requires changes. So the big problem with hiring programmers is that you end up running out of money. It's literally one of the reasons why most startups fail is that they hire expensive programmers, build stuff. Frankly, usually they build out really bloated products. So, an app that has way too many features, is way too perfect. And, when they realize, oh, we need to pay another bill, then, they end up eventually running out of money before really nailing the market. And the big problem with this is that you can't buy product market fit. This is the one thing you cannot buy. It is having the right product for the right customer, charging them for it, and then being super happy with it. The early phases of building a startup, we have to build things, we have to test things, go back to the table, to the drawing board, and adapt them based on what the market actually wants. So hiring programmers to build your idea, it's not a good idea. Now, the other option is like, oh, I'm don't have that money that you talked about, Christian. Let's go overseas and hire some cheap coders. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many hundreds of founders I have to pick up the pieces from. They'd show up with spaghetti code, super buggy products that they've paid, $5,000, $10,000 for, and they need to be completely rebuilt once you show them to an actual programmer, right? So yes, it's cheap, but it's a complete waste of money, and no one wants to be this guy, spaghetti code guy. It's just frankly like it seems like a good idea. And I know that like if you use your logic is like, yeah, just hire someone cheap to build it. But it's like, man, and I can't even mention the number of people I've even seen who have been kind of held ransom. It's like someone builds it and then they're like, we need more money for this, that, the other, when they start asking for more. And then it's like, oh, well, we won't give you your code unless you pay this extra bill, which is just appalling, frankly. So this is me when I had to go through one of these. But frankly, I've seen so many other founders do it. Now, the other option, which is the third option, is let's find a tech co-founder. Don't get me wrong. If you have an awesome friend who wants to build the company for you and knows how to code, that's awesome. But for the most part, this looks like endlessly networking, going to all these startup events and asking the first person that you meet if they want to join your team as your co-founder. The problem here is that it's very unlikely that you find a perfect match, right? It's, you need someone who believes in your mission, who's willing to, be dedicated for years of their life, like 5 years of their life if this thing goes well, 10 maybe. You need to find someone who believes in the mission, who has the skills to deliver on the product you're looking to build. There's just too many things, right? So you're basically looking for kind of a unicorn. And lastly, if you get the wrong co-founder, conflicts are one of the biggest reasons why startups fail. It's not through getting murdered by a competitor. It's from suicide. It's literally people fighting internally. The whole thing goes down because people don't agree, and suddenly this person owns half the company. You have to separate. So all of these lead back to just frustrated founders. And so I want to avoid this for you because honestly, these options, I've just seen them fail so many times. And frankly, today is the best day. And why is 2023 the best time to start? Well, that's a really good question. And, the first thing is you could pretty much work from anywhere. All you need is a laptop and an internet connection. So that's really cool, right? But that's been going on for a long time. This is nothing new. What is new, though, is that no-code tools allow you to build pretty much 85% of software. So anything that you're thinking of building, and I'll talk a bit more about no-code and sort of what you can build with it in a second. But you can do that without any coding skills. And that's super powerful. The second thing is that leveraging AI tools, you can actually go a lot quicker. A lot of people ask me, but Christian, what about the financial crisis? We're in the middle of a recession. Arguably so. I'm not saying there won't be hard times, but actually, if we look at history, hard times build great startups. And if we look at 2008, when there was a big financial crash, that was actually the birth year of Uber. It was the birth year of Airbnb, birth year of Groupon, birth year of Stripe, and a bunch of other startups. If you look back, actually, even in the 70s, Microsoft and Bill Gates started off in the middle of financial difficulties in terms of there was a recession going on. So now the big question becomes, how do you build a software business without coding? Well, you guessed it, no code. Quickly cover a little bit about what we're talking about here with no code. So for those of you who know what no code is, great. Hang in there for just a minute. These are basically tools that allow you to build software without coding. So they're drag and drop builders. They have these different interfaces. There are lots of tools out there, and you can pretty much design like you might do on PowerPoint, drag and drop, and then you can create logic behind those designs like you might do in Excel. If I click on this button, I want it to direct me towards that, and then send an email to this person, and then bring them to the dashboard. That's a workflow. So you can build things like websites, apps, web apps, and even AI these days. What we're talking about here is the evolution of building software. Before, it was all done through punch cards, right? And the basis of all computers is ones and zeros, like in the Matrix. But over years, we realized, okay, these punch cards are not that effective. We built better computers. Then we went to coding languages. And when we talk about no code, it's really just building blocks that allow you to build with code behind them, but without requiring any coding skills. And that is basically the next level of this video game, which is software. So yeah, there were traces of this back way before even the 2000s with things like Dreamweaver, but 2000s we had WordPress, Drupal. 2010 we started getting platforms like Shopify, Wix, Squarespace, Weebly. Now these were amazing because they didn't require coding, but they were limited to like, okay, let's build a landing page, or like let's build let's build something basic, right? Landing pages, online stores. So when we talk about no code, this started, probably about 7-8 years ago. But in 2020, basically, we had all these new tools that allowed us to build way more complex software. They had scalability. They had the potential to build way more complex things like Airbnb, Uber, et cetera, et cetera. And this is really the movement we're talking about, being able to build full-on software without coding, not just things to play around with. So interfaces look something like this. Some of them look like this. So this is Webflow, and this is kind of like a Photoshop builder, right? Lots of different functionalities, flexibility, and code is populated behind everything. Others look a little bit more like this when we're building apps. So it's like drag and drop these different pre-created components, adapt a bit the design, attach it to the data that you need in a database. And so really, these are very accessible to people who are not technical, right? Or who don't know how to code. But what can you actually build? Well, let's talk about it. You can build things like social networks where you have features like threads, you can post content, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, these kind of things. People have profiles, they can they can comment. You can build things like marketplaces, right? Where you have buyers and sellers. You as a platform will take a commission in between. So think of Airbnb or like Upwork or Amazon. All of these can be built with no code. You can also build all sorts of apps. So with geolocation like Uber, WhatsApp, Instacart. You can also build things like internal tools for your business. So CRMs like Pipedrive. You can build, client portals. You could build communities. You could pretty much build anything. And I say that, but I usually mean about 90% of software, 85%. And yeah, there are some things that you can't. Like you can't build blockchain infrastructure, for example. But frankly, most people are not building that. And if you're one of those people who's like, yeah, Christian, but I don't know, like I kind of feel like no code is a bit of a gimmick or a joke. Well, let me prove you wrong. This is Karthik Sridharan. He built Flexible. He generated $3 million in revenue with it. Kicked it off with no code tools. This is Teal, fully built with a no code tool. Raised $11 million from investors for their platform. And Comet was able to raise $20 million for their marketplace. And he actually got to $700,000 a month leveraging no-code tools. And so, yeah, no-code is a serious thing. Don't think it's a joke. And if you have all these preconceived notions, there's lots of myths about no-code going around, like it's not scalable. Oh yeah, but what about vendor lock-in? What are all these? A lot of these are just invented problems. Like if there's like fires around you, you want to put out all fires at the same time. It's like some are more important than others. Anyway, so that's what's so exciting about no-code. And please start putting your questions inside the chat. We'll be answering them at the end. I also have a little special thing for you at the end of this. So if you stick around till the end, you'll get access to something special. What about AI, Christian? Well, how can it actually help entrepreneurs, right? So let's cover a couple of different things that it can help you with. The first thing that I think is obviously is no code, right? So we talk about no code. There's no code and AI, meaning there is AI built inside no-code tools. And that is super exciting. But it can also help you with designing. It can help you with things like copywriting. It can help you with things like automating systems. It can help you with things like sales, marketing. It can cook dinner for you. It can put your kids to bed. Okay, those last two, clearly a lie. If that was the case, I would be sleeping a lot better at the moment. But anyway, AI tools can be really great as assistants, not employees. This is the big thing I want you to take away from AI. At the moment, Don't think that it's going to do everything for you, but there are some amazing shortcuts that you can use AI for. So think of them not as something that's going to replace you, but if you don't start learning how to leverage some of these tools, you'll potentially be replaced by someone who knows how to use these tools, right? That's one of the classic sayings in AI space right now. So let's talk about building. So NoCode, this is a platform called Framer. In Framer, you can build a whole website with just one prompt, right? So this is an example of, and of course you can adapt these afterwards to your liking. This is just a first version, and I'm really showcasing some of the examples that you can do. This is inside Webflow, where you can start actually already copywriting, and you can ask it to add specific elements that are, or pieces of content, sections, whatever you want to call it, leveraging AI. And then we have other platforms like Bubble, who are heavily investing in assistants who can help you automate workflows. And I'm serious when I say that NoCode plus AI right now is the future. Like, this is the new way of building startups, which is super exciting. Let me give you an example of a couple of startups. So this is VoicePen, built with NoCode. It's an AI platform that allows you to, as you can see, anything to blog posts in minutes. So you can grab a YouTube video and transform that into a blog post. You can grab an audio post, you can grab a voice memo. So yeah, really powerful stuff and built with NoCode. This is Work If AI, and it's a way for you to automate proposals. So you can save lots of time in your client proposals leveraging this tool built with NoCode and AI. This is another NoCode AI platform called Votion. So it's basically notes to Notion. And yeah, it's really exciting what can be done in terms of building. But you can also design, right? So this is Figma. There's a plugin you can use right now that goes from, hey, let me just, talk about what I want. Boom, it builds the first version of it. Boom, you can see it inside. And of course, you can adapt all these things. And then there's an even more exciting thing that allows you to push it from Figma into some of the no-code tools. You can also do things like design from scratch, right? So if you want to create an element like one of these images for your website, or maybe for your social profile, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, there are lots of tools that allow you to use just plain English, and you can find prompts to be able to help you fine-tune exactly how to talk about what you're trying to create. But yeah, it makes it so much quicker. You can build things like logos with AI, with platforms like Logo Master for free in just a couple minutes. Then you can also copyright, right? So there are platforms like Copy AI, which is one of my favorites, and Jasper, which by the way, Jasper also automates some marketing stuff. You also have Notion, which allows you to do some copywriting, improve your writing, right inside of their product. So I use this a lot for organization, and to have all of these AI features inside already, it kind of makes it very practical. It's where I keep my notes. It's where I create my business back end. And yeah, it's really amazing what you can do with AI, right? Well, actually, this is the big problem that all of us are facing. That's right, we're like this guy. So many different tools, playing around with no-code tools, with AI tools, and not actually reaching your end. And this is because shiny object syndrome is a serious, serious problem these days, where you can do everything, but then because there's so many options, you end up doing nothing. And this is probably the biggest problem that people are having right now, spending lots of time playing around with lots of tools and ending up like this guy again. And this is the last time I'm showing you this guy. But yeah, the truth is that it is a real problem. And if you're not focused on, your end goal, like basically if it's not saving you time or making you money or saving you money, then it is probably not worth it, and people get distracted, right? But I want to remind people that entrepreneurs, and as you're building things, you face these larger problems. Here's the bigger problem. 90% of all apps in the App Store are zombie apps, and 90% of startups fail. Why? Well, if you look at the statistics, it's because they don't reach product market fit. There's no need for what they're doing, and they run out of money before they ever reach the point at which they have a revenue generating business. And the reason why is because they actually oftentimes build it and think people are going to run towards it, right? But this is Steve Blank. He's he's just like an amazing guy, has done so much for the startup space. He's a guru, an actual legit guru. And he says, build it and they will come is not a strategy, it's a prayer. And the truth is that building alone is not enough. You need to do all these other things, usually going, getting customers, building a team, figuring out the business model, figuring out the target market properly. How about pricing? So basically, there are so many other things that you have to do. And that's why I want to cover this next part, which is how do you actually build a startup from scratch, leveraging no-code tools? And I will be talking a little bit about AI as well. So let's break it down. Let me just quickly hear from people in the chat to make sure that they're still interested and things are going well. That's me. I love that. Megan. Oh, Megan, what's up? A friend of mine, Sergio. Workflow tool. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for commenting here. And you could start putting the questions in the Q&A or here in the chat. I'll be reviewing that towards the end. So let's see. Let's jump back into it, everyone. Oh, where was I in this presentation? Let me see. Excellent. Step one, right? That's where we are. So basically, step one is customer discovery, right? So this is a process through which we need to understand what the customer actually wants instead of just building what we think people want, right? The closer we can get towards building something someone wants, the higher likelihood we'll be able to generate money from it out of the gate. And it's really because there's this huge gap between what we think people want and what people actually want and are willing to pay for. So the first step here is to write out a questionnaire. And I'm not talking about a survey, I'm talking about a questionnaire. And we want to do personalized outreach to the exact type of customer we think is going to want to pay for this product. Excellent. Then we're going to set up some Zoom calls and some phone chats. We're going to be taking some notes throughout this process, and we want to analyze those notes and really understand, is this customer segment or is this group of customers actually willing to, or does it seem like they have a problem or they're looking for a benefit that they'd be willing to pay for, right? If we don't reach the bottom of that question, then we're always going to be stuck. And if you can see, there are actually tools that you can use to make this go quite quickly. Usually what I do is outreach on places like LinkedIn, used to do it on Twitter, and now some of that stuff's blocked. But basically, you can use tools like Zoom to host the event, the chat with these individuals. You can use otter.ai, OTTER.ai, to grab the transcripts of these, but actually Zoom now has a feature to do this as well. And then you can even get some help from ChatGPT to analyze the data to point towards where there might be some opportunities. But I would only use this once we have about 10 interviews done. And really, it's about just not making the fundamental mistake of building something people don't want. Step two, this is branding and content. So we can't build anything unless we have a brand and content. So how do you do this from scratch? Well, the first thing you need to do is to come up with a name and a logo. Now, most people end up spending months. And guess what? No one cares about your name or your logo. The reason why they buy from you is not going to be your name or your logo. If it's a great one, that's a plus. If it's not that great, it's still not a startup killer. And frankly, at We Are No Code, we've changed our logo several times. And it has had zero to no impact apart from the fact that it gets more beautiful. And as we have more resources to invest in these things, great, we'll be able to do that. So it's about being efficient in finding these things. Then let's determine the value proposition. People are wanting to buy value, an outcome. Let's determine what that is. And we need to figure out how to communicate that. This is about communicating the offer. Then we need to find icons and illustrations. We need to find some photography potentially if you're looking to add some photography inside your project. We need to write some copy around, what is this promise? What are we offering? There are some great tools for all of this stuff, branding and content. I showed you Logo Master just earlier, Stability.ai, and a lot of other tools like Midjourney allow you to create from scratch. Pexels is a great free image library. Copy AI for the copy, ChatGPT, plenty of tools that we can use for all of this. And to just go super quickly, you can do this in less than a day. That is the truth. And I've done it in a couple of hours. So in fact, I'll be releasing a YouTube video soon around how I built an entire business in 60 minutes, but you'll hear about that soon. Step number 3, now we have a brand and we understand what customers actually want. Great. The next thing is building a smoke test. What is a smoke test? A smoke test is basically acting like we've built out everything that people wanted and seeing if people are actually willing to take an action that backs what they said. So this is really to mend the gap between like what people say they want and what people are actually willing to do, right? It's a big difference. I might say, I go to the gym 5 times a week. And then it's like, okay, Christian, but how many times did you go to the gym last week? Oh, twice. Okay, well, that's a big gap. And we need to mend that gap, right? So basically what we need to do is we need to go ahead and choose a tool to build out this smoke test, usually in the form of a landing page. Sometimes it's several pages, and it's really a test, right? Can we do pre-sales, right? Can we get someone's email address? Can we get someone to sign up for the beta? Can we get someone to sign or to book a call? Can we, like, all of these are indicators of validation that people actually want this product. And if we don't get that, then building it is going to be a problem. But also, this is going to tell us exactly what we have to build based on actions, not just words. So we want to build out this page structure. Usually there's a big promise. Then we talk about the outcomes and features, benefits and outcomes. Then the features that help people get those. Then we need to create a CTA, which is a call to action. So we need to determine what that is. Are we trying to get people to book a call? Are we trying to give a fake demo? Are we trying to get people to click on a fake buy button or a fake download button that then leads them to, oh, sorry, we're about to launch. Be the first to get notified. Give us your email here. These are all tests that really allow us to test people's actions. Then what we do is we add the copy and content we created, attach a domain, and go live. So to build landing pages, you can use all sorts of tools. Card is a super easy one. I recommend that. Unbalanced as well, with a little bit more analytics behind it. It's more about landing page tests. Softer is an actual no-code tool that can build web apps. But if you are going to build a web app, then you might want to start with Softer to get used to it. But you can even use any email marketing tool to build this landing page. And what's tough here is actually to be very concise about, and not be general, right? To talk directly to your audience and to be able to test their actions and whether they're actually willing to buy. Now, once we built the smoke test, step 4, attach tracking and analytics so we can understand what's happening. Like, out of how many people coming, am I getting signups? So we want to set up some tracking because we want to understand the metrics that we're trying to track. So usually it's going to be something like how many people did X outcome, right? So it could be gave us their email address. It could be bought the pre-sale. It could be bought the actual product if you're further along in the process or you've been able to build the first product. It could be, again, a lot of different things. We need to figure that out. But then how many people who landed on the smoke test actually took that action, right? We're going to have a proportion and we're going to need to understand how we can improve that. Why? Because we need to learn how to make the decisions based on that feedback. So what can we actually use here? Hotjar is my number one go-to. You can see what everyone does. And you can also see how many people landed, how many people converted. You can also use more complex tools like Full Story or Google Analytics, but keep it very simple here. You just need to be able to see, like, what are people doing? And with Hotjar, you see every one of the recordings, actually, like where people are clicking. Oh, they thought that was a button. Okay, we might want to change that. And our main goal is to improve this so that we can improve the metric here. Step 5, let's go out there and start selling it now. Like, we've built this thing out. As in like we built the smoke test, the offer out. Let's see if people actually want it, right? So first thing here, determine who your ideal customer is. Number two, figure out where they hang out, right? There's places online, there's places offline, and we can target both, right? It's kind of a myth that you can only target people through online means. Like sometimes going to a good old conference or some kind of a place where people are showcasing an event. That's actually how we launched We Are NoCode. That's a story for another day. Do targeted outreach and pitch. When I say targeted outreach, don't just go after everyone. Like, make it clear that you've gone after them specifically. And when you pitch, guess what? You start understanding the actual needs people have, the actual objections people have to what you're trying to sell them. And then we can keep improving, right? We just continue to improve based on what people actually want. So if you're talking about one thing and people are actually really excited about this other thing you're talking about, you might want to stop talking about that first thing and focus more on the things that people are really responding to. So go out there, start getting some interest and start building, because guess what? We need that feedback for next step, which is to build the actual MVP for your product, the software build, right? We are going to have now a lined up sort of audience who wants to buy this thing. And hopefully we've even done pre-sales or, got people to sign up for the beta program. Now it's about really determining what is the core value that this has to deliver, right? So let me give you an example. Airbnb, it's booking a house. Tinder, it's going on a date. That's the value, right? So when I say the value, it's like, what is the actual output, right? If it's a tracking tool, then it's a dashboard where you can see all the results of this tracking. Let's see. If it's We Are NoCode, it's launching your MVP, launching your business, So it's really about like, what is the output that people are looking for? And then let's determine the feature set based on those. And then we can start looking at what no-code tools can allow us to build that. And oftentimes, we just want to build an MVP. Again, MVP means minimum viable product. And I can't tell you how many times people are like, yeah, MVP, and they want to build the whole thing. And it's like, no, you just need to understand what's the quickest way for you to deliver the value. And frankly, who cares about the software? People want the outcome. You can do half of it manually and have it seem like it's all done through the software, and people will be quite happy. That's oftentimes what you want to do. So how do you build an MVP? There are two routes. One of them is a bad route, and the other one is amazing. So if you're trying to solve the problem of transportation, it's like, let's say you use the top route, right? We're going to build a car. Great. Okay, build a wheel. Can't do anything with a wheel. Build half the car. You can't build anything with half the car. Build 3/4 of the car. Can't do anything with that. It's only until the last product that it pleases the customer and they're willing to actually pay for the value. Again, focus on output, value. What do people want to pay for? Get somewhere quicker. A car does that. A wheel doesn't do that though. So the option you want to do is actually build a skateboard, then build a scooter, then build a bicycle, then build a motorcycle, then build a car. And each one of those iterations, it actually is quicker than walking. And so it gets better and better at fulfilling the value or outcome, which is getting somewhere quicker. And you can charge more and more as you build more complex products. Don't go ahead and build that car. You're just going to end up spending a bunch of money with zero revenue coming in. And you're frankly going to be exposing yourself. So again, make sure to take the second route here. And I love this imagery because it's just so clear. No code tools, which one to use? It really depends. It depends on what you're trying to build. It depends on your skill level. It depends the functionalities you need. And oftentimes, but these are our favorite ones. These are the ones that we teach oftentimes and we love. Webflow is a great website and front-end builder that's starting to build logic. Softer is a more easy web app builder. Yes, I will be sending you the slides. I'm sure a lot of people are asking this in the chat already. Bubble is a more complex web app builder. Airtable is a database that you can connect to some front ends. Glide is a mobile app builder. Flutterflow is a mobile app builder. Zapier automation, MemberStack, create member areas. But yeah, there are so many other tools apart from this, and maybe what's right for you is not even in this set of tools. But this is what I would use to build the MVP. And let's jump into step 7. We're almost done here. In fact, this is the last step. Fulfill and iterate. This is the best part, right? You basically have built an MVP. Before that, you built a smoke test and was able to gather interest and a list of people waiting to buy your product. Now let's deliver the product to the customer, cash in the money, and start getting feedback at all costs. Again, feedback here is more important than revenue. Revenue just proves and validates the business model, but to create a good product is what's really going to help your business scale. And that's what's so exciting about software businesses is they scale quickly, because ultimately you're going to have the software deliver the value, right? And that's super powerful. So then we want to improve the experience at all costs. And then we prioritize all future features just based on what customers actually want. Not what we think people want, but what people actually want, people who are paying for this product. And that, my friends, is how you launch from start to finish. So I want to quickly congratulate you, because if you're doing it this way, then you are light years in front of other founders and you won't make a lot of these same mistakes. And that's the real goal of this presentation. However, there are so many little details you can get wrong along this journey. And frankly, building a startup alone can be sad and it can feel lonely. And that's really the reason why we've created a program called the NoCode Startup. We're going to jump into the Q&A, but let me just tell you, for those of you who are interested, a little bit more about this program. So start putting the questions inside the chat, and I'll be answering those one by one at the end of this presentation. Now, the NoCode Startup is a program that I talked about a little bit earlier. It's really about helping you launch your next startup idea with no code and AI. Don't tell anyone. So basically, the main goals that we have for people in our program is to learn how to test and validate your startup idea very cost effectively. And we have a full framework for that. We'll be talking about that later. Help people build their MVPs. Oh, let me go back to this other slide. I feel like I didn't finish it. Help people build their MVPs with the first version of their app or website, and then help people get their first paying customers online. So it's really about turning people who are idea people into startup launch machines, right? Or people who are non-technical into people who can actually build and launch things effectively, leveraging these tools. So how do we actually do that? What's included in the package of the NoCode Startup? So we have weekly coaching sessions. This is really about accountability. One of the big things that happens is that you lack accountability and you don't know what to do. You don't know how to focus on the right things. And oftentimes you get stuck. So focusing your time in the right direction is super important. And that's what we do. It's a check-in with founders. Okay, where are you at? What do you need to be working on next week? Excellent. Where are you stuck? Get you unstuck. And then you'll be able to show up next week. And that's the way that we see progress. It's literally through putting in a couple hours a week and seeing progress in the right direction. But more importantly, working on that 20% that really makes the difference in your business instead of focusing on all these other things that you could. And that's oftentimes a big problem. So the value of this is about $3,000. Now, the other thing is a step-by-step curriculum. This is a video curriculum where we teach several no-code tools, Bubble, Webflow, Software, MemberStack, Airtable. Like, we have plenty of tools that we teach. We don't want you to learn them all. You need to learn the ones that are right for what you're trying to build, but also a startup curriculum. So basically, a lot of the steps that I've described up until now, just in actionable tasks and steps that you can follow to go from I have this idea to launch startup. So we even have frameworks and blueprints, like little workbooks to be able to work through as well. That can be super valuable and just save a lot of time instead of going around the internet. So I oftentimes say, oh, okay, if this was just a course, the value would be $1,000. Now here, and by the way, we teach people how to get customers how to raise money from investors. We teach lots of things in that other, even how to set up a corporate entity, what type of company to set up, competitive intelligence, SEO, there's a lot. But we really want you to focus just on the areas based on where you're at. Then each founder gets a private video support channel, sending each other back and forth videos to help you throughout the week, because you don't want to wait until that coaching session to get support. And we give people access to this for 6 whole months. and it's in Slack, but we leverage a tool called Loom to send each other back and forth videos. I usually say that the value of this is about $1,500, but I think it's actually a lot more. And we also have an amazing community of other founders who are doing this crazy thing called building startups, which frankly is nuts. It is kind of crazy to think that you can build a startup and generate revenue and escape the 9-to-5 rat race. But it's 100% true, because I have been able to help like hundreds of founders do this. So I just know that it's like not a crazy dream that you have. It's something you just have to start investing time into. But doing that with other people allows you to kind of like feel the pains and successes as you're going through days where you think you're taking over the world and building $1 billion business, and other days where you want to freaking give up. And that's just the truth of building startups. So this is really valuable for the support system and to collaborate with other like-minded entrepreneurs. Now, this is the value of about $1,000, and you get access for a year. We also have this huge discount program, about $300,000 worth of discounts. For all the no-code tools, it's 175 tools. It's like $1,000 off on Airtable, 1 year for free with Webflow, $500 off in Bubble. Basically, people save on average about $4,000, but let's say, okay, the value of this is about $1,000. All in all, the program includes all of the following things: the weekly group coaching for 6 months. So it's 6 months of hands-on support with the coaching sessions and the private video support channel. Then you have the full step-by-step curriculum. You get access to all of this stuff for a year. The tutorials for the no-code tools, the founder community, the discounts, and lots of frameworks and other bonuses as well. But yeah, the value of this is about $7,500. But we actually, our main goal at We Are No Code was to help make this more accessible so that people don't have to go ahead and make all the mistakes that you can make in the playbook, and to accelerate it and to democratize this movement of building startups with no code and AI. So the price point for our program is only a one-time payment of $1,997. Now, for those of you who think this is expensive, it's less than 1 credit at a major university. And trust me, what you'll learn there is nothing compared to what you'll learn here. And on top of that, my friends, because you showed up today, I told you I had a special thing for you. It is basically, I'm giving people for the next 7 days access to a very special offer. It is, we're actually not going to be doing a Black Friday offer this year, but for those of you who have joined, I have your email address, and you obviously it's an application-based program, which I'll talk about in just a little second. But if you get in, you can get $500 off of the tuition. And we currently have 10 open spots in the next program. So I'm giving people 7 days to apply to the program. And if you get in after a conversation, so usually it's an application process. You just fill out an application form. And then what happens is that we usually set up a call with you, because we want to know a little bit more about you, just making sure that it's a good fit. If it's a good fit, we'll offer you a spot in the program, and you can benefit from the $500 off as well. And I'll be happy, by the way, to answer any questions you have about this, but also about any sort of other questions you have about no code. I see there's quite a few things here. I just wanted to quickly add, let's see. I'm going to publish this. So on the right-hand side right now, you're going to be able to see, and let me know if you can actually see this in the chat. It's a link for you to be able to apply to the program. And I'll quickly finish off by saying that we do have a 30-day refund guarantee. If you're not happy with the product, with the support you're getting, with the progress you're seeing, totally fine. We are very confident in what we offer. The other thing is that you can build one, but also several startups with this. So we have people who've come in, built the first product. It didn't work out for them. They built a second one in the time they had in the program. And that's also the power of this. It's about learning how to actually launch. Like it's about acquiring the hard skills to go from I have this idea to I've launched it in the market cost effectively. And in a world where, startups can fail, having a couple more shots on goal, or at least empowering yourself so you learn how to fish versus constantly buying fish every time you need it, it suddenly increases your chances tenfold to be successful. And guess what? The thing that's amazing is that you can now take it into your own hands and not just depend on luck. And one thing that I love saying is that it literally only takes one startup, to change everything, right? You only have to be right once in one business to be able to completely change your life. So if you want to join our community, feel free to apply to the program. And now I just want to take the moment to just thank you for participating in this event. It was amazing. And we're going to be answering some questions. So let's do this. Give me a moment. Go back to this. And let's answer some questions. Whew, this was exciting. Hope you got some value from this, by the way. Is this going to be recorded from Ivan? Yes, it will. Yes, you will receive. I'm receiving a bunch of these now. Excellent. Are these island SaaS tools that you need to subscribe to each one? Yeah, the NoCode tools have subscriptions to them. For people who are accepted in the program, we do have freebies for all of those platforms. But yeah, you have to pay for different platforms for sure. Does NoCoding provide more complex capabilities than something like Wix or GoDaddy? Oh yes, 100%. You can, so I don't know if you saw the examples, but you can build things like Airbnb. We built a platform called Clear Segment that we built in 10 days for $40. And actually most of that time was spent on the conceptualizing, but it's a software as a service platform where you can get access to different marketing segments and you pay a monthly subscription. You can build AI startups. You can build all sorts of apps. So yeah, you can definitely build some complex stuff there. What is spaghetti code? Spaghetti code is code that is kind of unusable and buggy, and it was created by an amateur. Let's see. I wrote tracking analytics for step 4. Yes, exactly. Okay, perfect. Let me go into the Q&A section here. Oh, okay, wow, we got a bunch here. Do you offer more help than just software to advise entrepreneurs? Yes. This is the name of the game. And by the way, for those of you who are accepted in the program, you'd be working with me directly and other members of our team, but you would definitely have direct access to me and kind of consider it kind of like a part-time co-founder that helps guide you to not make all the same mistakes others will. Yes. I've also introduced people to investors. Yes. Definitely help on helping people pitch. Right now, we have a couple of our students who have been pitching and raising capital. So you build the deck, you record yourself pitching your deck, and then I'll be able to give you feedback to improve the deck so that you increase your chances of getting selected in that startup competition or raising money from investors. Do have quite a bit of experience in the realm of strategy for fundraising. We do teach you in the step-by-step curriculum how to build a deck and a financial forecast, which is what you need to present usually to entrepreneurs. And we're constantly also doing kind of like elevator pitch practice, which is like, give me your one-liner of what you do. Great, let's fine-tune that so that people actually understand what you do, because that can be a big mistake. Let's see. Yes, bubble.io, someone wrote. I don't know if that's a question. For AI websites, example, the one that takes voice memos to Notion. Which platform can you use to build something like that? Or is it an API that you need to connect to? Yeah, so basically, when we talk about, first of all, APIs are a way to connect to information, right? So that could be you connect to ChatGPT, it sends you back the, based on your prompt, it's going to send you back the results. You can build those leveraging bubble.ai. You could build that within Airtable with some Zapier. You could pretty much integrate a lot of things in a lot of places because there are connectors, automation tools like Make or Zapier that pretty much allow you to connect anything these days. So sometimes they're built as direct API connections. And if not, you can use other tools to connect. So which platforms can you use? Well, you can actually use a lot. And a lot of AI is already present in the no-code builders themselves these days. To build the, this is a good one. To build the MVP, do I need an LLC first? No, you do not. In fact, the only reason you need an LLC is to charge people money because you need to build, open a bank account. And I usually wait until, and you can even open a Stripe account, which is a payment processor, sometimes as a personal account, charge the first couple people. You declare that as a 1099 job on your taxes at the end of the year, and you're able to do that. So eventually, you probably want to build a business behind your business, right? But at first, you don't need to. You can build an MVP without that. And so, yeah, that's a really good question. What are methods I can use to generate ideas for apps that solve a problem? Business ideas starting out. Yeah, got it, Javier. So basically, there's lots of different strategies that I usually teach. We do actually have an entire module around idea generation and prioritization. So how can you not be the guy who's waiting for a light bulb idea, which is usually what happens. Like people just like wait for an idea, and it's like, oh well, I don't have an idea. It's like, no, you can actively go out there and build a list of ideas based on criteria, different criteria, and I could tell you a couple strategies, and then prioritize. Like you're only going to build one. Stop trying to build 5 startups in parallel. The idea of doing that is just a mistake. You end up just diluting your time and focus. So you want to pick one that has the highest likelihood. And prioritization is leveraging a matrix that we created that allows you to figure out which one to prioritize based on who you are, based on your skill sets, based on your experience, based on the likelihood of success, based on how good the customers are for that specific startup, and the likelihood of monetization and how pre-validated some of these ideas might be. So yeah, there are several ways. One of them I call the remora strategy, but I have about 12 strategies. The remora strategy is based around a fish. So a remora fish is a fish that attaches to sharks and basically feeds off a shark. So they only survive and they clean the shark's teeth. So it's like you choose a business that's big and thriving, and you build a business like basically that is that kind of leeches on, if you'd like, to that business. So it's like, for example, Airbnb, big and successful company. But you know what you could do? You could create a subscription box for Airbnb hosts that constantly provides them on a monthly basis with the mini shampoos, mini toiletry, so that they can provide that to their guests and they get it delivered immediately. So that's where we're building basically an entire business, and we're talking about a millions of dollar business, just based on another company thriving, right? But there are so many. There's through innovation. You can start from problems, like the problem-based approach. Again, there are lots of different strategies, and I would honestly advise people to just get started. And it really starts with actively going out there and pursuing, finding ideas, but also generating ideas, and then coming up with that list and then prioritizing. Okay, sorry guys. I sometimes go on long talks. For those of you who apply to the program and get in, you will see that inside the coaching as well. I love going deep. What are methods I can use to generate? Oh no, okay. Can I combine NoCode with decentralized blockchains tools? If there's an API in these decentralized Web3 tools, Matan, then absolutely you can. And oftentimes you will be able to. So let me give you some perspective. Most Web3 projects are built actually and launched with NoCode, but there's oftentimes a custom code, usually built in a coding language that is going to be Web3, to be able to, so they build one part and then you connect that to another part. But it's all like, it's seamless. It's not like people realize like, oh, these are two disconnected, like these are two things built on different things. No, it just seems like one experience for them. Okay, let's keep going. Do you sign an NDA with all clients? Really good question. We do not sign NDAs, but I'm happy to sign NDA if you want to. But this comes to a very classic sort of thought. Like a lot of entrepreneurs are worried of people robbing their ideas. The truth is, people are not around to rob your ideas. You should be talking about your idea as much as possible to build the people that you need around. And NDAs are actually not, they don't stand up in court. So they're really just about being nice. But if someone wanted to actually rob your idea, they just could. So usually execution is more important. If you'd like for us to sign an NDA and you get in, happy to do that. But again, usually our community is quite open with what they're working on and understand the value in sharing and learning. And again, investors will not sign NDAs. Accelerator programs will not sign NDAs. So this is also something where when you ask for NDAs, it also kind of makes you seem like a noob. And oftentimes that'll like, it's kind of a signal that, oh, this is like a first time inexperienced entrepreneur. So I wouldn't really ask for NDAs for certain people, but for us, I'm happy to do that. Nothing to hide. Let's see. What are the things that we can build by using Bubble? Wow, 85% of all software. Bubble, the problem with Bubble is that it has such a deep learning curve. We teach it and love it, but it just has a deep learning curve. Why? Because you can build lots of stuff, like so many different things, but oftentimes that comes with a deeper learning curve. And for a lot of people, it's like, it doesn't really make sense for them to spend 6 months learning something to then start building it properly. So yeah, is it possible to go from NoCode to an actual iOS and Android app? Absolutely. Yeah, there are mobile app builders that you can push. There are NoCode tools that you can push apps to the App Store, all built in NoCode. So yeah, you can build mobile native apps with NoCode, to answer your question. Is this a good fit for me if I'm building a coaching business first before an app? Yes, actually, we help a lot of people who are productizing their services. That's what I usually call it. So this is where we are actually running a business where we are selling our time for money, but we need to build a little bit of software. We need to automate some systems. We need to find ways to automate some of this and then layer on top more technology. So yeah, absolutely. We do work with a lot of coaches, consultants to productize services. So those are kind of the three categories: SMBs, people who are in your situation, and then high growth tech startups who just want to build an app business and raise money and grow that way. So yeah, really good question. Thanks for asking that. Let's see. Your startup course seems more niched to people in US. We have people in 23 different countries. Are the perks and pros we get outside the US? Yes, absolutely. And for the most part, these are online. So you will be able to access all of them. If you would set a timing between logo, content, web page, web app, platform, how many days? Okay, so this question is from Ivan, and it's about how much time would you spend on planning all the different parts. This is going to be different answer for me than it might be for most people. Sorry, what's an SMB? Small, medium business. But yeah, Ivan, like he's asking between like spending time on the logo, the content, websites. Well, I would not spend more than a week on the name, the logo. Then I would start, give myself a week for the content and to build out the first landing page. Then I would give myself a couple of months if it's the first time you're building a web app to build that. So usually about 2 months. Yeah, and cool to be on all set or whatever. There's also no end like to this. It's like as you see more success, there are just different questions that come up like as you're growing and scaling. So at first we focus on like, okay, make sure you're building the right idea if you're starting from total scratch or if you're trying to generate ideas. But then it's very quickly like, okay, great, like now we're building this thing. And then once you've built it, it's like, okay, now we need to get more customers. And then after that, it's like, okay, now we need to, maybe we were looking to grow. So how can we like streamline this? So after product market fit, there's product channel fit, which is selecting the right channel for growth, for marketing. Where is your time best spent? And I think that that's something that people don't often talk about. But yeah, let's see. Such great information, Megan. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Yeah. This is the kind of thing that we're constantly like working on inside the program. It's about, things evolve very quickly. So it's really about saving a lot of time along the journey, because I feel like the more that we can get people on the right track, when frankly, I see people spending $30,000 and being nowhere. The better that everything is going to be. And for me, we're at the point where we're starting to see a lot of success with our YouTube channel. And now I'm just starting to present all the success stories that we have within our program on there that helps their businesses grows, but also helps people understand the value of what we provide as a company too. So it's really exciting time right now, especially with like AI being so accessible. Zapier just allows you to connect AI into anything right now. NoCode tools allow you to, but it's just about like, it's basically, we're at a moment where it's like if you were some of the first people to learn how to code when coding was at its very infancy. It's like a huge competitive advantage. And so I really tell people, it's like, hey, stop trying to depend on all these other people to save your life here. Like, take responsibility, like learn the stuff, like get ahead of the curve. And then guess what? You can sell your services. You can build and launch startups super cost effectively. Like, we're in a new world and you got to learn these new tools. And guess what? We're in a skill-based economy. If you have the skills, like you can get hired for a lot of money. You can build things and make a lot of money. And I think that's what people start ignoring. They're like, oh no, but I have a job. It's like, and that's the other thing. You don't have to leave your job. You can do this on the side. Like half of our students are doing it on the side with zero risk as they have their full-time businesses. And as they start finding product market fit, then they can make a jump. But it's not a jump anymore when you already have a product and market that works. You're selling it. It's just about like, it's a transition. So I always say, like, don't think that this is like you risking everything. No, this is you starting to actually start investing in your dreams of maybe not working for someone for your entire life. And that's the power of learning these tools. It's just, and guess what? Soon there's going to be another thing that comes up. But in the end of the day, like building businesses is going to continue to evolve. And that's what we really help with, is to help people evolve as all these tools evolve, as the strategies evolve, and the platforms too, right? Like, for example, Facebook marketing was huge. And now it's become very expensive, right? So people have shifted to like TikTok marketing or like, and this is something that continues to happen, but the fundamentals behind this, once you learn them, you can just reuse them over and over and over. We have a question from Maverick. Is getting investors the same as a loan? The answer is no and yes. It depends on the structure of the investment. Usually investors, they want shares in your company. They want a piece of the pie. Usually when we take out a loan, it's just interest and principal. I borrow $30,000, X percent a year, and that's what I have to basically pay for. So let's see. How about seeking investors? What is this? What if the startup fails? Do we need to pay the investors anything? No. If you raise money from investors and your company fails, you don't owe those investors anything. If you structure it as a loan, though, that's going to be something that is potentially linked to your business. But if your business doesn't have a good credit, they're going to want to have you to basically do it. So let's see. So it's okay if your startup fails, as long as you just don't put all the responsibility onto yourself. And investors, who are investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in startups, they know this game. They invest in startups, and 1 out of 10 knocks it out of the park and makes the return they need. 67% of them just become good businesses, but they're not looking for good businesses. They don't like businesses that are at like $10 million and stay there. They need businesses to grow to like, several $100,000. Oftentimes depends on the investors. Let's see. Do you offer scholarships for your program? Perhaps a return of share? We don't actually do this, but yeah. So unfortunately, we don't currently have scholarships. This $500 off could be considered the scholarship if you get in. But yeah, unfortunately, we don't do scholarships at the moment. Maybe if we had some kind of like support from government or something like that, but that's not happening right now. How long will it take from start to launch? I'm really desperate to leave my 9-to-5. I hate my job. Yeah, this happens often. A lot of people are not happy in their job, and more. it takes, honestly, when we say launch, for me, the launch is like as soon as you've built that smoke test, get out there. But also like the launch is actually not this big event. If we're talking about launching the MVP, that means we've done the phases before. Then we're talking about maybe 2 months. The first time you do it, 2-3 months. But yeah, we've also had people who built an MVP in 3 months the first time, and then it's like it takes 3 weeks the next time. So it kind of depends, and it kind of depends on what you're trying to build and on your experience level, which is why kind of some of this, the advice has to be customized to you. That's why we are not just like an online course, is because every single founder needs advice that's catered to their startup, to them, to where they're at. Because yeah, that's ultimately what's going to, what's going to really help you progress in your startup. Andrew, if my idea won't work with no code, requires serious coding, do I still get support building with low code or transition product development cycle with We Are No Code program? Absolutely, yeah. What you basically get at the We Are No Code program is hands-on support. And since you have direct access to me, you'll have direct access to my brain. I don't know what ETL is. What's ETL? But yeah, to answer your question, yes, we support in every way that we can. And yeah, you're right. Like some projects require code, but usually there's also a good chunk that you can do with no code. So the question is not really, should I build it with no code or should I build it with code? Usually it's like, how far can no code get me? And then when is the right time to jump into building code, right? And sometimes it's out of the gate, we want to build some things with code. Like if there's a crazy machine learning algorithm that you need to build, like you could build that with code and bring it into, what's the big difference between We Are No Code and an incubator? It's the same thing, except we don't take a percentage of your company. And yeah, in an incubator, you're not going to learn the actual hard skills. Accelerators and incubators, we call ourselves an accelerator. But usually in accelerators and incubators, it's more about like, here's how to create your pitch deck. Here's how to pitch to investors. It's like, it's become very templated. And frankly, I'm not a huge fan anymore of those models, because I feel like it's just like a lot of people telling you what to do and no one really there to show you how to do it or to help you through it. I hope that makes sense. But basically an incubator sometimes is when you are in-house, you're actually going into an office space where there's several companies doing it, and you get like some office space, or it's a part-time program. So those are words that are a little bit vague as well, but for the most part, they focus on pitching, when it's like, if you don't have revenue, like you should be focused on building the business first. Awesome. Let's see. Let's keep going. A couple of questions. So I have time for, I have about 6 more minutes. I need to head out around 11:30. Any last questions? Shoot them. Would you recommend Flutterflow over Bubble to start with? To start with, it really depends on those are more complex platforms. Flutterflow is for mobile app building and is a little more complex. It can also use code. So it's a low code platform. Bubble is, again, a complex one. So again, I would probably recommend going for a slightly simpler builder at first if you're a complete beginner, unless you have, and again, that's because we can easily test things out and see whether or not they're working, and oftentimes deliver that outcome with simpler software tools, as in like you build a simple first version of your MVP, and then and sometimes even doing, as I said, partly it's all software and partly it's all manual. So you can combine both of those to really cash in money, know that you have a business, have fully validated this. Yeah. I want to start a no-code school that teaches young people and businesses how to build their website. Any advice? Yeah, a lot of advice. Build mobile apps. This is actually an area that that it starts off with learning it yourself, right? So that's number one. And then talking to your customer base. Like, so if you're going to be working with schools or with kids or young people, understanding like what they're interested in. Maybe it's like a better approach for kids to like start teaching them how to build like video games, like fun projects. Like most of those people don't care about building businesses. So it's like, how can we get that person excited about it? But yeah, learn the tools, become a professional yourself, and then you can start teaching. Let's see. I'm gonna go in chat. Any last questions? Is it building a coaching? Okay, I feel like I've answered a lot of these questions. Excellent. Well, listen, everyone, thank you so much for showing up. I'm going to also in the chat put a link for the program that you can apply to. You can see all the details in the link that I sent, but let me also put this inside. If you want to apply for the program, you have 7 days to be able to book your call with us. If you're accepted into the program, you'll get a moment to sign up. And yeah, super excited. We're going to be, and by the way, we also have some live building sessions that are going to start taking place. That's why we're right now putting on this offer. You could be launching your first MVP before Christmas. So like basically 6 weeks straight, we're just going to do like a speed build, and the goal is launch before Christmas. So again, and that's on top of all the other stuff that I told you that you would get as part of the program. So again, stop waiting, stop overthinking. This is the biggest problem. This is the beginning of your journey. And trust me, getting the support to get there quicker is so valuable. I can't tell you how learning these tools have completely changed my approach. When before I was raising money from investors, hiring a bunch of people, now I can do so much of it on my own, and it's just empowering. This is the future of building companies, and it can be your future as well if you choose. So I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see all of you guys in YouTube or inside the program. Take care. Thanks so much for joining today, and I'll talk to you soon.